The LA Kings trade deadline situation just got way more intense as insider Nick Kypreos reveals a surprising name that has been linked to Rob Blake and the LA Kings trading at the deadline, and that is Quinton Byfield. We have to dive into this recent report from Nick Kypreos, what some other insiders are saying, and the big implications on the LA Kings and their aspirations this year and many years beyond, all coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into the video, guys, just got to remind you that a ton of you are still not subscribed to the channel. Over 70% are not subscribed, and if you want to stay up to date on all the latest stories around the NHL for your favorite team, hit the free subscribe button down below. You won't regret it, I promise. Darius, we got to dive right into this right now, and I was shocked to see this come out from Nick Kypreos. As we dive into this here, per Real Kipper, LA forward Quinton Byfield may be available at the NHL trade deadline. He doesn't have a no movement clause until 28-29. He just signed a 5-year, $6.25 million AAV contract. He has 11 goals and 33 points in 55 games. Kings' second overall pick in 2020. And what Nick Kypreos had to say about this is very interesting, Darius. And basically what the article seemed to imply is that, hey, you know, if LA wants to win a playoff round, he may be on the market. What were your thoughts when you first heard this? And do you think this is an actual possibility?
Well, I'll bounce it back to you, Josh, in a second for your thoughts on this and your initial reaction, because my initial reaction to seeing this is leaning on the side of insanity, to be honest. I mean, he just signed, like it says here, a contract extension that brings him to 28-29, right? And he's only going to be 23 years old. Like, he's a baby in this league still at this point. He's putting up the points that he is. He is 6'5", right? Like 230 pounds. I mean, this is a guy that most teams would want on their team. Like, this is a no-brainer for teams acquiring him. So the fact that he's available at this year's trade deadline is shocking. I mean, this is one name that's popped up over the last couple of weeks, because obviously there's been so many names that we've discussed on the channel and different channels as well that, you know, do make sense. But Quinton Byfield makes no sense to me. This is insane if you're the LA Kings. This is your future. This is quite literally the future of the franchise. Is he a point-a-game player? No, right? But he has great use, I think, in the playoffs. And to trade him away to acquire somebody, as this is kind of alluding to from Nick Kypreos, to trade him away to try and win a playoff round, because obviously they've been bounced out by the Edmonton Oilers the last, handful of years. But, to trade him away to try and win just one round seems a bit absurd to me. Josh, I don't know how you felt about your initial reaction, but seeing this again, I was leaning on the side of this is insanity.
No, I mean, like you said, the way the article is framed really makes it seem like, hey, we want some playoff success and we're willing to mortgage our future for it. Now, look, Quinton Byfield, if I'm any team and I'm hearing that his name is even remotely available for one of my veteran players, unless my Stanley Cup window is this year and next year and that's it, I'm trying to trade for this guy, right? Yeah. Which is, like, I don't know. The fact that his name even came up absolutely just blew my mind. But there are some conflicting reports with this as well. As, we have Cam Robinson saying Quinton Byfield potentially being made available for trade after speaking to several sources. The unanimous answer was that his name is not currently on the market, but not that they've heard. They'd love it, though. So there's some interesting back and forth here. But again, Byfield has been one of the NHL's best players over the last little while. And look, in just February, he's tied for second behind only Alexander Barkov with 11 points, and he had 4 assists the other night in the game on February 25th. He has been unbelievable this year, Darius, and that's why I'm even more confused right now. But again, there are some problems that the LA Kings need to address, and if they want to succeed and go longer term in the playoffs, there are a few things they need to right? And looking at their lineup, it's not horrible, but, the scoring depth at times can be an issue. I know fans are getting frustrated with Phil Danault's lack of offensive output, but the big thing is the power play right now, Darius. A lot of fans, Neil Brown, they're not very happy with what's going on right now. The Kings are third last in the entire league on the power play, but at the same time, I see fans calling for Byfield to jump in on that PP1. So to me, while there is a big need for the Kings to go get a top-end forward, some guy who can score a lot, Darius, I just don't see why trading Quinton Byfield is the solution to the multiple problems that you have.
Yeah, so we're talking about in this report trading Quinton Byfield to go get a guy that could make a difference, maybe another scoring option or something like that. And like you just alluded to, if you take a look at the power play, Byfield, one of the hottest players in the league right now, right? Like what he did the other night, and if you take a look at what he's done this month alone, is not on your first power play unit. That is mind-boggling. And not only is he not on your first power play unit, look who he's playing with at the center position. We know who Phil Danault is. Like, what are we kidding? You know, Josh, you're a Habs fan. You know what he's about. He's not an offensive player, right? He's not going to give you much there on the second power play unit. And no disrespect to Trevor Moore either. I mean, I think he's a great player, and he used to play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, I think he's a great player in this league and a goal scorer, right? But, you know, look at the players that he's playing with. He should be playing on the first power play unit for what he's done so far this year. And I mean, Phil Danault, the fact that he's even on the second power play unit is, I think, a little absurd. But to go back to something that did pique my interest a little bit in terms of teams who would want to acquire this player, like you mentioned, unless you're a team that's absolutely gunning for the Stanley Cup right now, it'd be hard to make it work, right, to a degree. He's only making $6.25 million. The cap is going up almost $10 million every offseason after this year. I mean, this contract is going to mature, I think, into one of the best contracts for a young player in the entire league.
Yep, I absolutely agree. I mean, you look at some similar guys, like, you know, a guy like Uri Slavkovsky, who's younger than Quinton Byfield, who had very similar production numbers. He signed a nearly $8 million deal, while Quinton Byfield putting up better numbers than Slavkovsky this year for sure, and is playing a bit more physical game, good Corsi percentage, playing more time on ice, is like, and his contract's even better. Like, there's a lot of, again, just big question marks around this as to why they would move him, because, again, teams would pay an insane premium for him. I definitely agree, but, like, you know, if you're going to move him, you're going to need someone else that's going to be extremely good guaranteed for probably that similar time frame, right? Now, if we look at what some fans are talking about in terms of what they should trade for, we took this one just from Reddit because I think it is a pretty good indicator of what fans want here. And this comment here from Raymond Yang says, at the very least, they want a winger who can play in the top six with decent power play numbers and preferably right-hand shot, and a bottom six center who can reliably play better than Trevor Lewis, and the middle word I'm not going to say. So right now, when we're looking at the Kings lineup, like, you know, there are a few guys who are available. And one name that came to my mind, of course, you know, we're talking a top six level guy who can score a lot of goals, a right-hand shot, Brock Besser. I mean, it's a guy who's been in a lot of trade talks in Vancouver. He's actually at an almost identical cap hit to Quinton Byfield. But that move makes no sense to me because you need to sign Besser. There'd be a bunch of other, you know, talks there on that front. And me as a Habs fan, I hear bottom six center who can play reliably at that center position. A guy like Jake Evans is hot on the trade market, and it wouldn't cost a Quinton Byfield to go get him. And his cap hit is very easy to fit in at 1.7 million. And of course, at the deadline, you know, if there's retention, might not be any, but 1.7 is easy to fit in. So I'm just saying, Darius, like, there are options out there for them to fix the problems that they need without getting rid of Byfield. I actually think, like, again, you can put together a decent package for a decent top-end scoring guy if you mortgage a little bit of your future, but not maybe your best potential prospect in a guy like Byfield.
Yeah, and in a trade for Brock Besser, like you brought up, that makes no sense for the Kings because I do not see Brock Besser re-signing with this team, right? It would be a pure rental, and you're trading away one of the best young players in the entire game. It just makes absolutely no sense. And like you said, you can fix problems that you have. If you want a third line center, you can find those. You don't have to trade away, you know, Quinton Byfield for that. And speaking of Jake Evans, I think I'd rather Jake Evans on power play too than Phil Danault, to be honest. Like, I feel like there's ways that you can, you know, fill out this lineup.
This endless pipeline.
Yeah, exactly. It just keeps going over and over. But I think that there is maybe a way. I think Byfield's played great at center too, clearly this month. Like, he's having a great month. But I think there is a way that maybe you can move him back to the wing and he can really just hone in on what he's really good at. If you go out and get another center and maybe move Phil Danault up to the second line center, maybe a Jake Evans or somebody else, you can find a third line center. There's a ton available, right? There's so many on the market right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. But the fact that this name has been floated out there, I'll use that word, floated out there the last couple of days, is pretty insane to me.
It is insane. And guys, we want to hear what you guys have to say because, again, whether this is real, whether Kipper is, whether he has an actual source or not, we don't know. But again, the fact that name's even out there at all is very interesting. And I want you, whether you're a Kings fan or not, leave your thoughts down below. Hey, maybe you're a fan of another team that's thinking, I could go get Quinton Byfield. We'd love to hear from you. That'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for updates on all your favorite teams, all the latest news in the NHL. We got your back. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Darius. We'll catch you in the next one.